I know what you are!
Hello and welcome back to Suckwar Central. My name is CJ, and today I'm here to discuss who likes manipulation, who loves to take divination results seriously, and who's into cotton binding different nen types. Yes sir, I'm here to peg people, with the correct nen affinities that is. See, there's a lot of nen users where we don't actually know 100% for a fact what their nen affinities are, because Togashi didn't give us one of these fancy little narration boxes, and I'm here to make a guess at exactly that. Although I will be skipping characters I have nothing interesting to say about, or characters where we really just don't have enough info. I'm going to be primarily analyzing nen abilities, but I'm also going to compare them to Hisoka's personality analysis test because it's fun. Also, just as a reminder, nen affinity leans are a thing, and although this is a little harder to speculate on, if I feel it's applicable, I'm gonna do that too, just because, like I said, it's more fun, we're all here to have fun, we all wanna have fun anyway. So starting with First Prince Benjamin, I would make a 99% wager that this guy's a specialist through and through. See, transferring nen abilities to other people isn't unheard of for various affinities, but abilities that take Hatsus from other people are pretty much confined to the realm of specialization. Okay, caveat, Shikaku was said to be both a manipulator and able to seal people's nen abilities and turn them into cards. But the word seal, without a T, suggests that he just takes them out of play and can't use them himself. When I said take nen abilities from other people, I meant to use, which is what Benjamin Baton does. It lets him keep on using the nen of the dead Ben-men with slots on his knuckles, meaning he could presumably contain the nen of 10 Ben-men. I think this one's pretty cut and dry, but he also fits Hisoka's personality type test. I mean, he could absolutely be described as charismatic with the loyalty he commands over his soldiers, and as for independent, he pretty much always tries to chart his own course and needs to be held back by smarter people. Also, like all specialists, Benjamin is a flaming homosexual. He's always looking at man. He's always looking at man. Next up is Basho. And now I can hear you all screaming, CJ, Basho was a conjurer, what are you talking about? Well, actually, we don't know that. He was classified as a conjurer in both the 2011 anime and that one fuck-ass game with the fuck-ass cards, but technically this is not canon. And personally, I'm not sure what to make of him. Yes, we've seen his haiku create fire, but the actual haiku paper is not conjured. We've also seen him create a haiku that chases evil spirits away from Fugetsu, and it's a bit harder to say that one is conjuration. Honestly, Basho's ability makes the most sense to me as specialization. We usually think of specialists as really powerful, competent individuals, but maybe Basho's just a rare, untalented specialist who's a moron. Then again, with how these poems take effect on things away from the body, and how apparently he can leave one with Fugetsu and have the effect persist, he might also just be a really weird and unique emitter. I would say his personality type definitely leans more towards emitter, but I don't know, man. For now, I'm just gonna be safe and consider him a specialist. Next up, we've got Benolanov. Once again, his affinity is all but confirmed to be conjuration, seeing as all his abilities and major attacks use it, and his personality is also a perfect match. Side note, I wouldn't be surprised if he leans transmuter. That sound wave he plays with his body seems like a bit much for a human body to achieve, even one full of holes like that. That makes me think it's actually transmuted aura with the properties of sound waves. However, this is just headcanon and speculation. So yeah, he's probably a conjurer. Camilla, much like Basho, is someone who screams specialist to me, just because of the rarity and difficulty of creating abilities that intentionally employ postmortem nen. She certainly fits the bill personality-wise, being fiercely independent and, yes, charismatic. Even though she's a total asshole to her followers, they still seem charmed by her and care about her. What is charisma, if not that? However, theoretically, I do believe her nen ability could be possible with pure emission or conjuration. The reason I say either or is because it does seem like nen beasts can be created with either type, as we see with Shechmono and Rihan. If I had to choose between those two, I would hypothesize Camilla is an emitter, because she also fits the emitter personality type, dare I say better than the specialist type, being as impulsive and hot-headed as she is. Just given how rare specialists are, and the fact that we can explain this ability without specialization, I'm gonna say she's an emitter until we get confirmation. Luke's a character who's very iffy to speculate on, but I'm gonna do it anyway because I will take any chance I can possibly get to talk about my glorious chicken queen and favorite of the original Zodiacs. Yes, we've seen her use manipulation, but the more powerful a Hunter x Hunter character is, the tougher it is to guess their Nen affinity, because the more likely they are to use multiple Nen affinities proficiently. I mean, look at Isaac Netero. Look at his ability and tell me you would look at that and think Enhancer. Somehow he is an Enhancer. Anyway, I do think we have enough information to at least take a guess with Kluke. Yes, Kluke manipulates birds, but she manipulates a very large quantity of birds to do a very simple thing, which is deliver a message. The more impressive feat in all that is the aura emitted into these birds, and that makes me think she's an emitter who maybe leans manipulation. Plus, she has the stereotypical emitter personality. She's really short-tempered, and when she's pissed at people, she screams at them. Kinda girl boss if I'm being honest. She's enough of a dipshit asshole that it loops back around from being pathetic to being kinda cool. Love you, Kluke. I hope we get to see more of you in the next batch of chapters. Flutter, I think, is pretty definitely a manipulator. See, he conjures these dragonflies as scouts and manipulates them, right? However, he's also got a different ability called Super Eye that lets him see through these dragonflies. Sayurd, who's an emitter, is able to see out of the tiny creatures he controls too. This leads me to believe that seeing out of something you manipulate requires the use of emission, and I think Flutter being a manipulator who uses his adjacent categories makes more sense than him being a conjurer who uses emission. Plus, of course, his personality does fit that of a manipulator from the little we see of it. Okay, Tufty and Gyatome I'm gonna discuss at the same time, because I honestly did not get much of a read on their actual personalities, and also I just don't care and they basically have the same ability. Essentially, they conjure a remotely controlled doppelganger and control it. Note that I said control and not manipulate. I do think it is possible to control a doppelganger without using manipulation type Nen. Take Hanzo for instance. Hanzo, according to Togashi, is a transmuter, but he has a doppelganger ability. Now, surely, creating a doppelganger ability would be a bit crazy for a transmuter if it truly required manipulation. But the thing is, look at the conditions. Hanzo has to lie supine in a meditative state and can't focus on anything else. I think when he conjures his doppelganger, he doesn't control it like a puppet the way Castro did. He pretty much inhabits it, and when it's dispelled, his soul returns to his body. Ergo, it's my hypothesis that controlling a doppelganger only requires manipulation when you want to actively move it alongside yourself like Castro. But if you're willing to actually fully inhabit it, you can scoot by on just conjuration. That makes me think Tufty and Gyatome are more likely to be conjurers than manipulators or anything else, although we can't say for sure. Gel has, at the very least, demonstrated conjuration in turning her arm into a snake. However, I do not think this is her main ability, judging by how quick she was to show it off in front of all the other Zodiacs, and she strikes me as a little more cautious than that. Keeping in mind that Gel is both a poison hunter and a pharmacist, personally, I believe her true ability is similar to that of Tabepa's Nen Beast. She can probably transmute a variety of medicines, drugs, and poisons, and maybe they're rendered more potent by the condition that they have to be administered through her snake arm, just like how Bisky's lotion is strengthened by needing to be administered through Cookie, the masseuse. That being said, Gel's personality does seem more befitting of a conjurer, so who knows. Personally, I think she's a transmuter that leans conjurer, but it could easily be the other way around. Gorenu, I think, is an emitter who leans manipulator. He definitely has a manipulator's personality, but that doesn't always match up, as Hisoka admits. While he admittedly makes heavy use of both affinities, his trump card is the whole teleportation thing, which seems very characteristic of emitter abilities by and large. Zystom is pretty clearly a manipulator. Honestly, at first I thought he was a conjurer because I thought the grid on this panel was like an actual thing he created, but I don't think that's the case. And he uses physical cards as opposed to conjured ones, has the personality of a manipulator. Yeah, this guy's as manipulator as they come. Side note, I really want to see him fight because I'm eager to see a manipulator in action whose combat style isn't just try to press my instant win button on the enemy. The Ortho siblings, yeah, they're conjurers. I have nothing to say about their nen ability. I just want to take a minute to bitch about the 2011 anime. Why did it make them like that? When I first saw this shit, I was like, oh my god, it's incienso. But they're not like that in the manga. They're normal. So the anime staff really made Togashi look like a total Kodaka-tier pervert. One of the many reasons I do not like the anime that much now that I've read the manga. Yeah, I'm not gonna talk about spider buttholes and love showers. No thank you, I like being monetized. Rihan obviously is a conjurer. He is appropriately high-strung and serious, and his ability relies entirely on conjuration and zero manipulation, which I've always found really interesting for a Nen Beast user. Once he conjures the predator, he doesn't actually control it. He just lets it do its thing and hopes it succeeds. Like he said, it's a spray and pray type Nen ability. I think that should be an official category. Like we've got compound type, we've got lending type, we've got pseudo-coercive. Why can't we have spray and pray type? Make it official, Togashi, please. Anyway, Sayu, I believe, is a conjurer-leaning specialist. As a refresher, he has this magic staff, and he also creates monkeys that rob their targets of sight, speech, and hearing. Now, he could be a manipulator who uses emitted Nen beasts, and the thievery of the target's senses could be achieved through manipulation, but I think this is the less likely possibility, even though his personality is very manipulator-like. See, conjuring things with supernatural qualities is very much in the conjurer's wheelhouse. I mean, if Kurapika can do whatever overpowered bullshit dowsing chain is without Emperor Time active and call it conjuration, Sayu can totally make 3 monkeys that just do that. If anything, I think he uses manipulation to control them. Also, his staff changes sizes, and that kind of transformation is characteristic of either Viagra or the conjuration Nen type. And last but not least, I think Yushohi is an emitter, and that's because Nen users can't see his stinger ball, which makes me think it's an emitted construct, not a conjured one. As a reminder, emitted Nen beasts are invisible to non-Nen users most of the time, but conjured ones tend to be typically visible to everybody. Emphasis on typically, but again, this seems to be the default state, and I don't think Yushohi is skilled enough to work this into his ability. Yushohi probably leans manipulator, because like I said, he's a low skill Nen user compared to the likes of even the average hunter, and needs to control his stinger ball actively. But since the main component of the ability is that it attaches to people and kills them, presumably by injecting some weird juice, some Yushohi juice, delicious Yushohi juice. Why do I go on these tangents, man? Why can't I just stick to the fucking script? What is wrong with me? Anyway, I'd still say it's more likely that he's an emitter than a manipulator. With that being said, haha, yeah, Nen. I personally wish Togashi would include little volume extras like the Hunterpedia, which was one of the few things I think the 2011 anime did right that clarify little things like this. But on the other hand, as a writer myself, I can only imagine that when Togashi doesn't explicitly name a Nen user's affinity, it's so he can keep his options open in case he changes his mind later. With that being said, I've been CJ from Suckwar Central. I hope you'll join me next time, and I hope you have a wonderful day.